the voices in the trees. The first rule you learn about the Appalachian Mountains is simple. If you hear something calling your name, no matter how familiar, no matter how desperate, you do not answer. The second rule is worse. If you hear something mimicking someone you love, you run. I didn't believe in rules like that when I first arrived. The cabin sat deep in the trees, where the road narrowed into little more than a dirt scar through endless forest. Pines and old hardwoods pressed in on all sides, their branches knitting together overhead so tightly that even midday felt like dusk. The air smelled damp and ancient, like wet soil that had never once seen the sun. It had belonged to my grandfather, a man I barely knew. When he died, the place passed to me, free property, the lawyer said, a peaceful retreat, good for writing. I didn't question it. I should have. The locals in the nearest town, 30 minutes down a winding road that always seemed longer on the way back, gave me strange looks when I mentioned the cabin, not rude, not unfriendly, just careful. One old woman at the general store paused mid-sentence when I told her where I was staying.
You alone out there?
She asked. Yeah, I said, smiling. Perfect, right? She didn't smile back.
Lock your doors at night,
she said.
And if you hear anything, don't go looking.
I laughed it off. People love their ghost stories. That night, I stopped laughing. It started small, a sound somewhere in the trees. Branches snapping, not like an animal moving, but like something stepping too hard, too deliberately. I told myself it was a deer, or maybe a bear, but it didn't move away. It circled. I stood on the porch, peering into the darkness beyond the weak yellow glow of the cabin light. The forest felt wrong. Too quiet. No insects, no wind. Hello, I called before I could stop myself. The sound stopped. Then, from somewhere deeper in the trees, something answered. Hello, my voice. Exactly my voice. Same tone, same pitch. Even the slight uncertainty at the end. My stomach dropped. Okay, I muttered, forcing a laugh. Not funny. Silence. I waited. Nothing else came. Eventually, I went inside and locked the door. I told myself it had been an echo. Sound does weird things in the mountains. I'd read that somewhere. I kept telling myself that as I checked the lock 3 times before going to bed. The next morning I found footprints. They circled the cabin, just at the edge of the clearing, too large for a dog, too narrow for a bear. Long, almost human, but wrong somehow, like the proportions didn't quite fit, and they stopped right beneath my bedroom window. I didn't leave that day. By the 3rd night, the sounds came closer. Not just branches, snapping now, breathing, slow, wet, just beyond the walls. I sat in the living room, every light on, the TV blaring static just to fill the silence. My phone had no signal. The landline had been dead since I arrived. The breathing moved along the outside of the cabin, pausing at each window. Then came the scratching, long, dragging nails against wood. Not frantic. Not aggressive. Curious. Go away, I whispered, gripping the arm of the couch so hard my fingers hurt. The scratching stopped. For a moment I hoped it had left. Then something tapped on the front door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Another 3 knocks. And then, hey, it's me. My heart slammed against my ribs. It was my sister's voice. Soft, familiar, exactly the way she sounded on the phone. You there? It called. Open up. She lived 6 states away. I didn't move. Come on, the voice said, a little more insistent now. It's cold out here. Silence stretched. Then the voice changed. Subtly at first, the warmth drained out of it, leaving something hollow behind.
Open the door.
The last word came out wrong, too long, stretched like it had too many syllables. I pressed my hands over my ears.
Open the door.
The voice broke then, splintering into something inhuman. Too many tones layered together. Too many mouths speaking at once. The door shuddered as something leaned against it from the outside. Not knocking anymore. Listening. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the footprints were closer. This time, they came right up to the door, and there was something else. A second set, smaller, child-sized. I drove into town as soon as the sun came up. The old woman at the store looked at me once and knew.
You heard it?
She said. I nodded.
Did it sound like someone you knew?
Yeah. She sighed, like she'd been hoping I'd say no.
They learn you,
She said.
watch you, listen. They don't start talking until they think they got it right.
What are they? I asked. She shook her head.
Older than names.
She said.
Older than the mountains, some folks say.
I laughed weakly. That's not helpful. Her eyes hardened.
You think this is a joke?
I didn't answer. She leaned closer.
If you hear something outside your cabin at night,
She said. Voice low.
no matter what it says, no matter who it sounds like, you do not open that door. Not for anything.
What happens if you do? She held my gaze for a long moment. Then she said.
You won't be you anymore.
I should have left, packed my things, driven away, never looked back. But I didn't. Because that night, it didn't come from outside. I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Inside the cabin, slow, careful, moving through the hallway. My breath caught in my throat. The bedroom door creaked open. I hadn't locked it. A shape stood in the doorway, tall, thin, too thin. It didn't move, neither did I. Then, in a perfect imitation of my own voice, it whispered, You should have left. The thing stepped into the room, and I realized, with a cold, sinking certainty, that it wasn't just copying my voice anymore. It was copying me, my height, my shape, my face. Standing there, in the dark, was me. Only the smile was wrong. Too wide. Too full of teeth. I've been watching you, it said. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. You learned the first rule, it continued, tilting its head. You didn't answer. It took another step closer, but you stayed. Its grin widened. And that was the mistake. I finally found my voice. What do you want? It laughed a perfect echo of my own laugh, twisted into something hollow. Practice, it said. The lights went out. They found the cabin weeks later. Door hanging open, no signs of struggle. No body. Just muddy footprints leading inside. And one set leading out. Sometimes, if you drive those mountain roads late at night, you might see someone standing just at the edge of the trees, watching, waiting. And if you're unlucky, really unlucky, it might call out to you, in your own voice, Hey, it's me. And if you know what's good for you, you'll keep driving, because whatever's out there, it's still practicing.